and welcome to another edition of Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham, where Team Needham discusses everything healthcare. I'm your host, Shawn Needham, along with my wonderful wife, Janet, who is right there, and she is with me in spirit and actually with me outside my office at the pharmacy at Mosaic Professional Pharmacy. I'm streaming from my office, and Janet is busy running the pharmacy. Hopefully, we'll get to have her back on the podcast soon as we get caught up in the pharmacy. I am super excited to have Lara Heimann back on our show. We had a great conversation a few weeks ago, and we could have kept going and going, and she had to maybe cut me off, or maybe I had to cut her off. But great conversation about functional movement. If you follow our podcast, I always talk about functional movement often because that's really what it is. Sometimes we call it exercise, and exercise can be a dirty word, but it's really functional movement. And I learned a lot from her, hoping to learn a lot today. So Lara, welcome back to our show.
Thank you so much for having me, Shawn. Happy to be here.
So I got to tell you, after I had so many things going on in my head after we interviewed you last time, and one of them was I've been training with kettlebells for a long time. I think kettlebells, if there's one tool that you can have in your home gym, it's a kettlebell, maybe two of them, a lighter one and a heavier one. And you talked about doing the kettlebell swing, which I think if there's one exercise, just one strength exercise you can do, actually one exercise in general, even if you don't do any cardio, do a bunch of kettlebell swings. And you said add a hop. So I added a hop to my kettlebell swing. And I got to tell you, I was a little bit surprised at first because you can't use the same amount of weight with your kettlebell swing when you're adding a hop. But what a great functional movement. So thank you so much for teaching me that. Hope to learn a lot today. So welcome to our show.
Thanks for having me back. I'm really happy to be here. And I'm glad you tried that. And yes, you can't use the same weight. But what it does is it really helps develop the power. And the power is like how quickly you summon those motor units to fire so that you can produce a plyometric kind of explosive power with that. And yeah, when you have a lot of weight, it's going to it won't feel as smooth. So, but it's great. And talk about cardio. It's great for bone density. It's great for cardio. It's great for all that core engagement. I agree with you. Kettlebells are amazing.
Yeah, they are. The gym rats, and I use that term loosely. The gym rats will tell you, well, the problem with kettlebells is they don't work your pecs. And I think you and I had a discussion last time that our pecs are not really a functional. I mean, They are functional. We couldn't live without them, but we don't need big pecs as humans because we don't do this stuff a lot, right?
Yeah, I think with any kind of muscle hypertrophy where you're developing muscle, you want it to be functional, you want it to be adaptable, and you want it to really the density of the muscle shouldn't get in the way of performing any movement. And that can happen a lot when you get too much bulk without enough support. It's just not very efficient, and movement doesn't feel as fluid or as joyful as it really should.
Yeah, that's true. So tell us a little bit about what you do with the LYT method and about your background.
Yeah. So the LYT yoga method, I'm the founder of that. And I created it because I had love in all these kind of different disciplines. In yoga, I loved yoga. I loved the conscious awareness and movement, the honing in, the connecting to yourself, this raising of consciousness, which I think is the ultimate goal. But I did feel there's some gaps in terms of the biomechanical soundness, in terms of the invitation and accessibility to all bodies and all different histories. And so I combined the yoga practice with my physical therapy background, which also includes my specialization of understanding neuroscience and neuroplasticity. And so the LYT yoga method is really designed to help anybody feel more joyful, more energy through all different stages of life.
That's awesome. And I will tell you that I learned so much from our interview with you last time. And I tell you, I've gotten to know through the podcast and just through the pharmacy, we've gotten to know a lot of physical therapists, and your guys' knowledge is so helpful when it comes from a pharmacy standpoint. Let me just give an example. I mean, as pharmacists, we know drugs, right? And as physical therapists, you know physical movements and muscles and tendons and stuff like that. And I will tell you, I really respect your guys' knowledge. If I had a problem with muscles or movement or something like that, I would talk to a physical therapist before I would talk to a physician, like a medical doctor, for sure.
I agree. I think we have like a very comprehensive understanding of the body and its working, from the physiology, from the kind of micro to the macro. And, really good physical therapists are going to be really good educators. And I think that's what I bring into the LYT method that I also found was lacking a little bit just in the yoga world alone, was instead of just performing movements, it's really educating people about how to do something with this awareness. So we're teaching people alignment, biomechanics. We're teaching about the body and how that impacts every system in the body. It impacts your musculoskeletal system, of course, from the physical therapy and functional movement standpoint, but it's also impacting how you breathe, how you manage stress. That's your nervous system. And so really understanding all of that in a comprehensive way, it really empowers us as educators to share that knowledge. And then I teach people, whether they're physical therapists or not, through our LYT yoga training, I teach them the same thing that I learned, but I just have distilled it, not watered it down, but really distilled it to be palatable to teachers who want to learn more, and then also to the students who take our classes, because I believe that everyone, we don't need to gatekeep this information. Everyone deserves to know about their body and their body in movement, and how we are bodies of energy, and how do we sustain and expand that energy and not lose it in ways that we can commonly do in our daily life through suboptimal posture and suboptimal movement.
And every time you say that, I go like this.
I know, everybody stands up straight, right?
I am, just to let you know, I don't know what your thoughts are. I am sitting on a medicine ball. I don't know what your thoughts are about that.
Oh, I think it's great. I think it's
Yeah.
great because, my husband would work a lot, and he would always be like, "Oh, I'm changing this. I'm trying this." He got one of those big balls, exercise balls, and he'd sit on it. And the same thing, because it has a little bit of a tiny bit of give to it. It just summons your core muscles to engage in ways that if you just sit and kind of slouch in a chair, the chair just kind of sucks you in, and you just kind of slide in there, and you're not doing very much work. And we want to hold on to that, what I call readiness, that readiness state, that resting tone of our muscle state, so that when we get up, they're already summoned. It's that kind of, when I'm talking about power, it's how quickly you can summon the motor units to fire. And so if they haven't been doing anything, it's harder to get up and go. And then we tend to just kind of shuffle around. And that's part of where the rewiring that we really talk about in LYT comes into play, is how do we rewire more optimal movement and more optimal posture so that it carries over into your daily life, so that you have that resting, muscle tone readiness.
Exactly. And I got to clarify. Obviously, you understood what I said. I hope the listeners and viewers did too. But I said medicine ball. I meant Swiss ball. I think they're also called yoga balls, right?
Yeah, yoga balls, exercise balls, theraballs, all those, the big balls that you can blow up that have a little bit of bounce to them. There's different sizes, but they're really wonderful. And sitting on one is great. So my husband would do that. He'd also stand on one of those little, I don't know, they're sometimes called Bosu or sometimes
Bosu balls. Yeah.
Where
half a ball, right? Basically.
It has like little balls underneath and then a platform. So you have to kind of balance. It's almost like you're like practicing surfing or something on a board. And it's that same idea. It's just not static. Static is going to often be stagnant, because when we're not, having those little perturbations, so to speak, we just, again, can slide. And people will be like, well, I got a standing desk versus, sitting. And I'm like, that's great, except that you can do the same thing in standing and just hang out and on your ligaments and those passive restraints in your joints. And it's not really, you're getting some weight bearing, and hopefully that's going to be better than just sitting on your butt. But you have to kind of shift your weight around if you're in a standing desk. You have to kind of march. You have to stagger your feet. You have to pick one foot up and just have the ball of the foot down, so that you're not getting into just like locking out joints or hanging forward in your pelvis, because we can get really slouchy in our standing, just like we do in our sitting.
So what are your thoughts about the walking treadmill while working?
I mean, I think that is the ultimate. It's not for everybody. I had a treadmill desk for a while, and you really can't go very fast. The idea is that you're just moving a little bit, but for meetings, typing for me, I mean, I have a really good friend who's an author, and she writes, for 4 hours a day, and she does it all on her treadmill desk. But to me, I'm not as good of a typer, so that just was like too much happening. But it's really great for meetings. If you can't get out and walk and have a talking meeting, then having a walking desk, or now they even have these walking floors where you don't even have to buy like a treadmill. I think it's great because you're just getting a little bit of movement in, and it's not taxing the body. But our bodies are really made to move like that at kind of this low performance a majority of the day with peaks of that. And so if we can simulate our body is engineered to do, it's really optimal. Like our joints love it. They're staying supple. Our tissues are staying more pliable. We're just feeling better. We're not necessarily breaking a sweat or even getting our heart rate up that much, but it's just really the movement of the joints that's so helpful.
I think as humans, and you kind of alluded to it, I think as humans, we were designed to move all day long.
Yeah.
I saw a little video. You may have seen something like this, but about animals and their endurance. And it kind of started out with like a cheetah. And, a cheetah can run for a half a mile. And I mean, super, super fast for a half a mile. A gazelle can run for a mile super fast to try to outrun the cheetah.
Yeah.
But anyway, then it progressed up to a horse, and a horse can run like 40 miles or something like that. And then a camel can outrun a horse. I remember, these are the ones I remember in there. The one at the end, not sprinting, but the one that wins in the end is humans. Humans pass them all up because we're made to walk or move all day long. And so when cardio gets a bad rap, and I talk about strength training very often. I think strength training is very, very important. But when cardio gets a bad rap, I use that as an analogy. And just what you're talking about, we don't have to, run a triathlon or do a mountain bike race for 2 hours, your heart rate at 170. But we should move all day long. Now, most of us don't have the advantage of being able to move all day long because our jobs are sedentary. So whatever we can do to help stimulate that is good. And that might be HIIT training or more intense cardio for shorter periods of time. What are your comments?
I agree with that. I mean, the reality is most people can't walk in the way we used to walk or are designed to walk or move all day. Like you said, that was the advantage that we had more endurance than animals that our ancestors were hunting, and then just that kind of coursers, just like continuing and plodding along. And we're creating energy through that. When you add the plyo, or you add like some sprinting, or even like getting, like you said, heart rate up for an extended period of time, that is a strain for our body. And so it's like the balance is always like stress is good until it's not. So it's like, how do we create that stress curve? Because stress, we know, we have a meeting here, we scheduled it. Like that's not a stress, but you have to have organization. You have to put it into place. You have to get something done. There's productivity. If somebody just said, hey, hand that to me by the end of year, like not many people are going to get it done until the last week, right? So we need these things that challenge us, that stress us to get something done. And then we get to the point where it's too much stress, and that comes out in mental stress, emotional stress, physical stress. So it's like finding that peak where we're really stressing the body just enough that it's benefiting us. And so to your point, yes, if you can, whatever you can do to inject more movement into your day, and then add a little bit of that extra stress right at the top, whether it's running or lifting weights where you're really pushing it, but you're not you're not straining your body to the degree that it can't recover, that your sleep is affected, that your mental stress is affected. And so I just think for people, it's overwhelming to think, oh, I need to move more. But it's like, if you just put in these little parts of your day and think out of every 10 minutes, how could I add some movement? That adds up over time. And that's really much more beneficial than sitting for like 8 hours a day and then going to the gym and really like, cracking the whip. It's like, it's much better to, have your gym time, but also throughout the day, bring in those movements, and that's why I like drink a lot of water. Like, you have to get up, you have to go to the bathroom. Once you're up, can you do some movement? Can you do some big movement patterns such that you're capitalizing on all the joints, mobilizing, and that just and you'll actually have more energy. You'll have more productivity. This has all we know it intellectually, we know it intuitively, but it's also been proven in research that we're just not made to sit and be productive for hours on end. It just, our brains crave movement. Our brains need movement.
Absolutely. So I'm going to put you on the spot a little bit. Are you ready for this?
Yeah.
So what do you do during the day? You said get up to get water to make sure you move, but anything else? Any other details that you can help us with that might help our listeners and viewers or me?
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm lucky because my entire job is about movement. So I already taught a 75-minute class this morning, for example, and I teach 5 days a week. So I have it already in, that point, but I have a lot of things where I have to be sitting like this or in a meeting or writing a blog or something. And I just kind of, first of all, I'm in charge of my schedule. So I look at like, okay, where am I going to get a break in here? I'm always looking for the breaks. And when there's a break, I definitely try and go outside. Like, and if you live in an area that's, today I'm on the West Coast right now. It's actually a kind of not great day. It's gray and we don't have that weather that much out here.
Well, that's just usual West Coast.
Right. So but just put on a rain jacket and get outside. You're just going to feel better to get some fresh air and move. I have a dog, so that little things like that. Like, I love animals anyway, but my dog also makes me get out on the days that I don't really want to. And you have to think of yourself a little bit like a dog or a child. You need those playground breaks. You need those walk breaks. And so I just have those. But the first thing I do is I really look at my schedule each day, and I have blocks of time that I'm not sitting at a desk. And I think everybody can do that. They're a little nervous to do it because maybe they've got a boss or whatever that has more control. But at the end of the day, you're in control. And so set your life up to work for you. And ultimately, you're going to be a better person, human, worker, spouse, parent, if you take care of yourself first. And taking care of yourself means you have to have those breaks in there. So that's the biggest thing I do, is I just look at my schedule, and whether I've already been moving that day or not, I still have movement breaks throughout the day.
That's a great example. I just want to add a few things to that.
Yeah.
I do have a coach that helps me with my exercise. He is a mountain bike. He trains me for mountain bike racing, cross country mountain bike racing, and he also schedules gym time. Many times the gym time is body weight type exercises. So a lot of times when I'm traveling, i.e. flying, you just can't find a gym, or you just don't have time for a gym. But one thing you do have time for when you're flying is there's always quite a bit of time in the airport, either between connections or after you check in. And many a times I have done push-ups or one-legged squats or, any kind of body weight exercise you can probably do in the airport. I brought bands before and used bands in between that time, because if not, you're sitting around for an hour to 2 hours doing nothing, or even worse, going and eating and doing nothing. So it's really, we don't need to make it complicated. And exactly. I'll look at my schedule out the day. It's like, okay, when is there a layover, or when am I going to have time? And sometimes, Laura, I'll have, 5 minutes to do push-ups. And then at the next place, I'll have 5 minutes to do squats. But just get it in throughout the day. And the next thing you know, the workout is done. Don't look at it like, okay, this workout's going to have to take 40 minutes. I need to block out 40 minutes. Just do those repetitions throughout the day, right?
Yeah. Again, the all or nothing is really not a good attitude, because there are going to be days, and there might be many days where you can't do all at once. And like I travel a lot, and I just get to the airport. I like to get there early because I just don't want any stress about
That's my wife. She wants to get there so early.
Yeah. So I didn't used to be that way. Oh my God. I don't know what it is, but I think the more you travel, the more you're like, I know all the things that can happen. But when I get there and I have an hour and a half before my flight, I walk. I just walk all around, and I think I've got to walk now because I'm going to be stuck in that airplane for a while. And I know I'm going to rest better on the airplane and feel better about the rest if I've also just walked. So yeah, you can do anything. Be the weird person who's doing stuff. I've done that too, where I'm like stretching or down dogging or doing stuff at the wall, and nobody really cares. Like, just take care of you. But I love that whole, like, the all or nothing can be like a complete blockage for people, because they're like, oh, I don't have time. I can't run 5 miles, so I'm not going to run anything. It's like, how about just run half a mile or walk? I used to be that way. Like, if it wasn't 5 miles or more, it was like, that was enough. And, it's good to get you going. And then the other thing that you mentioned, I think, is also really important for a lot of people. And I see this for people on our LYT platform, just scheduling in the blocks of time, and also having a partner like that helps you be accountable. So some people just find that, showing up for a class with me is getting them accountable, or they'll schedule it. But also I see people who come to each other's houses. I have people that Zoom, they Zoom together, and they take my class online while they're together in Zoom. I mean, just having somebody to show up for, sometimes that can be that thing that can, the difference between sitting on the couch and, getting up and exercising and moving with somebody. It's really, having some kind of accountability partner is really helpful.
Well, and on top of that, I think what I'm going to add is, I think that's why some kind of coach, whether it be, and even though my coach is not necessarily an online coach, I hardly ever see him. He's, we do most stuff just by email and text if necessary. But every Monday, he prescribes new workouts for me. And every Monday it's like, do I want to let my coach know that I didn't do anything over the
yourself? Yeah, I know.
Right. Over the weekend? I don't really want to do that. So, it makes me accountable, and especially being on Monday, it makes you do stuff through the weekend. So, and I think it's the same way with any program that you follow. That's why sometimes a little bit of structure will help that, because it will hold you accountable, whether it be with a coach or whether it be with a partner that you're being coached with. Either way, it's accountability is important. It's like, and like you're saying, somebody shows up at your house. I've had gym partners before, and they show up at your house at 6 a.m. and it's like, well, you kind of got to do it now.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. When I ran, I would make a running date, and it would sometimes be early morning, which I dislike greatly, but I taught 5:30 a.m. because I had to teach and show up. So if somebody showed up at my door, I'm not going to sleep through that. And I love what you said about structure, because we say this a lot in LYT, like, structure creates freedom. It's not the opposite. It's like, I'm in a room here, and it has the space because of the structure of the walls and the door. If there was just like blank, it would just be blank. It would just not have the feeling of this tidiness and organization that we need. And we need this in our lives, and we need this in our movement. And so we talk a lot about how structure, like biomechanics, is not just like rigidity and doing things all aligned. It's really understanding how the structure of your body influences the structure of your movement. That influences the energy. And then all of that gives you more freedom in your movement, freedom in your breathing, freedom in your energy. But it all comes from that structure. So I think it really goes across the spectrum. The structure in your life really does create more, energy and efficiency in your movement and your vitality.
I love your analogies. That is so great, because one of the structures that I have in my life, and I'm sure you do too, because you're a busy person and travel a lot, is that I put everything on my calendar, and it creates structure. Some people would say, well, that's very stressful. It's like, no, not really. It's less stressful because I know exactly what is going to happen, throughout the day. And speaking of that, it's worse. Think about the chaos that is in your life when you get up late and you start the day behind. Your life, the rest of the day is complete chaos. But if you get up early and not just in time to get to work, but you do some kind of workout or some kind of movement or yoga or relax with a cup of coffee or whatever it is, creating that actually is what is creating. You might think, well, I don't get to sleep in, and I love sleeping in, and so does my wife. But when you do those things to create those structures in your life, it creates freedom throughout the rest of the day and your life.
It totally does. And really, like you said, it's like the bookend. How you start your day really sets up how your day feels and how you feel in your day. And so getting up, I always get up an hour before I have whatever is on the schedule, because I need that hour to have my coffee, to move around, to get like everything prepped. And then I go to bed according to that. So that's, getting up early my husband he gets up early automatically. He always has. He doesn't need coffee. He jumps out of bed. He's an anomaly, I think. I don't think most people just love the mornings, but they love it once they get into it, once they start that. And that's, again, the structure that you need. And that's discipline. Discipline sometimes has a really bad rap. I think it's a great word, because discipline is a muscle. It is a muscle you develop. And like when you start doing it, it's harder to feel like you want to be a sloth. You just get into that whole, and the discipline is taking care of you. If you take care of yourself, if you take care of like those mornings, you get up, you start off, and I give a lecture to corporate people, and it's called the Spark program. And the S is start your day off right. And that is, get up and start infusing a little movement. Like when you're making your coffee or tea, like what can you do? You can do some side lunges. You can do some squats. You can lift up on your heels and do some heel raises to just stimulate some movement, because your feet have been, everything's not been active during the night, most likely. And then you continue that layer it onto other things, like when you're brushing your teeth or whatever. You can inject little opportunities for movement with the habits that you're already doing in the morning. And those little movements will help the energy, that you'll get brighter. It's like having your own cup of coffee inside your body, and but starting off the day is, and we know, like put my shades up as quickly as possible, even if the light isn't there. As soon as the light comes on, that light is giving your you have this suprachiasmatic nuclei, it's called, and what it is it's your own circadian pacemaker. So it stimulates the start of your day, the start of your cycle. And then you're going to sleep better. You're going to have those periods of movement and recovery better because of how you start your day. So it is really, really important, that structure.
Yeah, for sure. And pulling the blinds up, I totally agree. We are, as humans, we are diurnal creatures. We are meant to work during the day when it's light out, and we're meant to sleep at night. And it's important I will say, those of us that live in northern latitudes, it can be a little bit more difficult when it gets to be dark at 3:30 in the evening in the middle of the winter.
Yeah, that's when you want to get one of those great light sources that really help, so that you get that same stimulus you would have if the sun. So I really believe in those. When I lived,
and I'm sure I'm preaching the choir on this, and although those are helpful, nothing replaces natural sunlight.
No, sun is so powerful. We can never mock that up, but yes, something to try and at least make your mood more even, because we know how mood is impacted by sun and light.
Absolutely. So tell us about your online yoga classes, and I'm streaming your website here on the LYT Method. Tell us about it.
So our online platform is really robust. We have thousands of classes on there, and really our key feature, I think, that separates us by far is the education we provide. So you will come on and you will get to know about your body. You'll understand what a neutral pelvis is, how to move at your pelvis versus your hips, how to find and align that upright posture and how to take that into movement. Neutral spine when you're hinging at the hips. So you're putting the work in the hips and not in the spine. The spine is really, even though it's mobile and we want to keep it very mobile, especially thoracic spine, which tends to get, like less mobile with age. The spine is mostly made for transmitting energy. So we want to know how to keep that neutral, and we'll teach you how to do that. What are the scapula? Why are they so important? So education is huge, and we have fun too. So in that, you're learning, you're moving, you're getting stronger, more mobile, and you're just going to, again, feel more joy in your body, especially if you haven't felt that before in yoga, if you've been intimidated. Lots of men, for example, are intimidated by yoga because they feel like they have to be, flexible. We really meet you where you are. So when you go online, you can toggle the beginner, intermediate, or advanced classes. Those are not about you as a beginner or intermediate. It's about what you can expect in the class. So in the beginner classes, they're going to be slower. There's going to be more opportunity for understanding your body, getting that education, using props to help you find that alignment. If you don't have the mobility to do some of the moves, we offer all kinds of different variations. And then the intermediate and advanced get to be more challenging. They get a little bit quicker. And it's never fast for the sake of fast, but it's developing that neuromotor coordination where your brain and body are responding in real time to how you're moving. We move all around the mat, and we teach you how to kind of orient. So you're going to get smarter, not only just in your body, but your brain's going to get smarter too, because we're challenging the brain-body connection and giving you the space to optimize your movement. So check it out. There's a free week. And again, with your podcast listeners, there's 5 weeks for $5. So you really get an opportunity. 5 weeks is a great way to dive in, take 2 or 3 classes a week, take more if you'd like, but aim for 2 or 3 to really start to feel the change and shift, the difference in your mobility, your flexibility. The flexibility is how well your tissues allow movement to happen. So when you feel tight, that's usually the tissues are tight, but you first have to go into, are the joints mobilizing well to then allow the tissues to pull around the bone? Think of this as this is prehab. Instead of like PT, we always think of rehab. You come to us when you have a problem. This is to prevent that. This is all the work you need to do in every day of your life for years. It's never over, right? We have a body, we've got to take care of it. And that's like daily milking of the tissues, juicing of the joints, and then just feeling all the joy that comes with that.
And I got to expand on what you talked about with, movement in the brain. And this, some people don't want to believe it. But there's a lot more research coming out now how movement, exercise, whatever you want to call it, helps to prevent dementia and all kinds of brain issues. And really, we shouldn't be surprised. I mean, as humans, we were meant to move all day long. So what makes us think that that's not going to help our brain, not just our physical body, but also our brain? Of course it is going to help that.
Yeah, we know it stimulates all the areas in the brain that are responsible for processing, for memory, for cognition. And I mean, it's like the body is the easiest vehicle for transforming your life in every system in your body. And just if you're newer to movement or newer to this type of practice, ease into it, but don't give up. Like it's meet challenge as something that's growing your brain, because your brain really only changes through challenge. And so different movement will challenge you, and that's amazing. There's a novelty center in the brain that craves novelty. So moving in different ways. If you're somebody who does the same thing every day, if you just go for a run and do a few stretches, you're doing something. My gosh, you're moving, but you need to really move in a variety of ways. So do this as an adjunct. We have a lot of people. We have people on the platform who only do this practice and might walk or some other kinds of forms of movement outside of that, but this is their primary movement experience. And then we have a lot of people who do this as an adjunct to something else they love, whether it's pickleball, running, hiking, biking, because it helps whatever else you love that much more because you're staying more balanced. Just from a cellular level out, our body and our brain craves balance. It's called homeostasis. And that balance is what keeps us feeling really harmonious. It's the structure that creates the freedom. You need both, and that's the balancing act.
So true. And no one ever regretted when they moved more during the day. No one ever regrets that.
No, never.
Yeah.
Just get outside of the thoughts that, you have all these things, you're a parent, you're a professional, blah, 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 like whatever it is, you are number one. Like if you don't take care of yourself, everything else in your life is impacted. And so conversely, if you take care of yourself first, everything in your life is positively impacted. So it's just put that as a priority, make it happen. It doesn't, like you said, it doesn't have to be all or nothing. Put in little movements throughout the day. And we have classes that range from 10 minutes to 75 minutes. So we have a wake up series, just like we were talking about, just like a little bit of what is this movement? These are 8 to 10 minute classes. And you can take those. You can take 20-minute classes. You could choose something that's just for mobility. We have classes that are almost like prehab, again, for physical therapy. And then we have classes that are look much more like yoga, but always incorporating the functional movement and the rewiring that we do in our blueprint.
Absolutely love it, Laura. As always, you helped us educate and empower our listeners and viewers to take charge of their own health. And that's the goal of this podcast. So thank you very much for your knowledge and wisdom today.
Thank you so much for having me.
And listeners and viewers, thank you for tuning in to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Tune in actually at 2:00 today, Pacific Standard Time, because we will have another guest on our podcast, Greg Dennis. And you do not want to miss out on that, talking about functional medicine, I believe. So listeners, viewers, thank you for tuning in to Health Solutions with Shawn and Janet Needham. Thank you.